everybody, welcome back. My name is Cassie. I am the Evil Secret Ninja, and I talk about books and review books on my channel. And today I am reviewing the book from the November Owlcrate, which was Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross. And this is a young adult fantasy. If you don't know what Owlcrate is, it's a monthly subscription box where you get book and bookish things. And the reason that I started that subscription is I kind of wanted to see if I could get some newer books, some authors I've maybe never heard of, and just try some new things. And the Owlcrate box has like a young adult box, and they also have a middle grade children's box. This is from the YA box. For me, YA's books are often hit or miss. Sometimes I really enjoy them, and sometimes I don't. So let's kind of get into this one. So Dreams Lie Beneath, we follow a girl named Clementine. She lives in this world where nightmares come to life. There's not a whole lot of other dreams that people have. They only have nightmares. And when the nightmares come to life on the new moon, the magicians have to go out and fight the nightmares and dispel them. I'm not 100% sure what happens if they don't. I would presume that they go on a murderous rampage and kill everyone. So the land is cursed, and she is a magician. She enjoys destroying nightmares, but she also has discovered that maybe there's some other forms of magic that might be interesting for her to know. For instance, she is an artist, and she has apparently there's a way to learn magic that is also associated with her artwork. And her father live in this town, and they are the magicians for the town. They're the ones who keep the nightmares at bay. So one day these two brothers come, and they are there to challenge them for ownership of the town, to be the ones to fight the nightmares. And of course they lose. Clementine and her father lose, so they are forced to leave. So then Clementine kind of goes on this seeking out revenge to try and get back at these two brothers for making her leave her home. Kind of finds out that there's a little bit more to it. The myth of how this land got cursed was that there was this duke who was murdered by his closest friends and family, and because of that, when he was murdered, he cursed the land. And these people who rebelled against him and rose up and slew him have been cursed as well, as in that they will never die, and they can never dream. And of course, we don't know who these people are, and that's part of the book, is uncovering who they are. But there is also, can these people come together and break the curse and make life wonderful again? So that's kind of the general premise. Now, of course, because it's young adult, there's a romance in it. And I have to say, comparatively, it's not so bad. And I don't think it's even like a big secret who it is, because in young adult novels, it's really not that complicated to figure out who the romance is going to be. At least not for me, even if there is some weird love triangle, which there was not a love triangle in this, which I was grateful for. This was just straightforward, and after spending time together and trying to plot against each other, that eventually it's not going to turn out as she had planned. The things that I enjoyed about this book, the story was actually really interesting. I thought that the idea and the world were really cool, and the idea that there's nightmares that are now out to get everyone, that was like a really fun idea, and I liked how that played out. So the characters, some of them were pretty decent, some of them were just kind of surfacey, but for the most part, you kind of understood why the characters did some of the things that they did. I won't even say it was a big surprise when you find out who the people are who conspired against the Duke and killed him. There's enough hints along the way that I figured out, I think, all but one of them. So it wasn't like a big secret or anything as to who they were. Well, I mean, it was, but it wasn't that hard to figure out. One of the big things that I struggled with regard to the characters and who they were and what they were about is there's one character who decides that they receive a spell that turns half of their heart to stone, and they have to give up half of their talents and stuff. They have to give up half of that in order to achieve the goal that they have set out for themselves. And they are told that eventually the stone will break, because eventually you'll care again and you'll revert back to what you were. So they offered this really hefty price for something that they wanted really bad. I guess I expected that after that point that the characters should have been a little bit more stone-hearted. That they should have been a little bit more, a little bit less caring, a little bit, but it didn't seem like that the character changed really at all, even though half their heart was turned to stone, and that they were basically told that they would become a much colder, harsher individual. So I guess that was kind of the big, kind of a letdown. I wanted there to be more like that this is who they became because of this sacrifice that they made. And they thought that they were justified in making the sacrifice. And unlike sometimes other young adult books where a character sacrifices something, this one actually made sense. So I did like that aspect of it. All right, so I'm trying to think if I have any other thoughts or reactions to the book as a whole. I really liked the author's writing style. I thought it was well written. And the idea behind it, I really liked. The characters were kind of hit or miss. Some of them were pretty good, some of them not so much. And I guess I would prefer that if you have a character that is not human, maybe you could do some work, something to indicate that they don't feel or act or expect things the same way that people do. I'm just saying, they're not people, so make them not people. Give them aspects that would indicate that they are obviously something else, whatever that may be. So I would kind of like to see that the characters that were not human maybe had less of a human feel to them and more of a something otherworldly to them. And I find that, obviously, for me, that makes it more enjoyable, because then that the person doesn't feel person, because they're not. They're just there's some other creature that is also sentient, that there's something different about them, and maybe they're good at trying to act human, but there should be something sinister or different about them. What I will say with regard to this, and I think this is true for most young adult books for me, they don't take me long to read at all. I finished this, I started one day, read for a couple hours, and then picked it up the next day, read for a couple hours, and I was done with it. So I think, and it's not like it's a short book, it's almost 500 pages, and so I think for me, I don't know what it is about young adult, and I know part of it has to do with the font and the spacing in the books, that there's not a lot of there's extra line spacing, and I'm not sure if they do that to make the book longer or what, but I always call these books they're fluffy because they don't take very long to read. Sometimes I feel like they should have a little bit more to them because they're so long, and yet they don't. So it's 500 pages here. You could have gone a lot more in depth into some of the situations or some of the characters, or explored the world a little bit more and not cut out things like, I didn't really ever find out what happens if they don't defeat the nightmares at the end of the night. Do they kill everybody? What happens? So I guess maybe that's just a concern I have about young adult fiction in general, is that they're really easy to read. They're really just fluff. It's not that there's a lot of fluff in them, but I consider them fluffy because I can read them in a couple of hours. And I'm like, well, okay, that was fine. Toss it aside, on to the next one. But it might be nice to have a little bit more depth to them. So as far as the Owlcrate edition, obviously this is a different cover than the book would normally have. And, without the sleeve, it actually looks really cool. The lettering and everything on the back, but the sleeve is actually really cool because it has this pretty cool artwork on the inside, and those are our characters vanquishing nightmares. I guess kind of one of the other things that I didn't feel like was explained really well was, in order to vanquish the nightmares, you have to look for something that's gold. And this thing, or whatever that is gold, is the thing that, I guess, gets rid of the nightmare. And, of course, like, it's different for every nightmare. But it didn't really explain a whole lot what that was or what it meant. So, yeah, I think that there could have been some things that could have been added a little bit that would have improved my thoughts or my feelings, or like how immersive it was. Believe it or not, I like books that have some meat to them. Obviously, like, I read a lot of adult fantasy. I read the whole Wheel of Time series, so I like some meat to the works that I'm reading. I would have preferred a little bit more, and unfortunately that's I don't know that I would say that that's specific to this book, or if it's specific to the young adult genre as a whole, that a lot of times it's like they're holding back and they're not giving us the full picture. Alright, so I think that's all that I have to say. Like, overall, I actually did enjoy this. It was just a fun little read. Like I said, it's just fluff. At least for me. But I certainly prefer, like, adult fantasy that has a little bit more meat to it. At this point, it does not show that this is part of a series. I guess, like, the way it ended, it's possible it could be. But it wrapped up pretty well, but there was that little epilogue at the end that makes you think there could be more to this story. If there is, I think I'll probably pick it up. I wouldn't see a reason, like, not to. I enjoyed it enough that I would want to continue the series. So anyway, that's my review of Dreams Lie Beneath. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you want to know about Owlcrate, I'll try to remember to put a link down below so that you can look into it for yourselves. But it has been kind of fun to get the boxes. Just be aware, and they're pretty open about this, that they are having some supply issues with regard to getting the boxes out on time. And in fact, in the November box, which we didn't get till mid-December, and we haven't got the December box yet, but it looks like the January box is coming out. So just be aware, like, they do keep you updated as far as how their supply chains are going and items that might be missing. And in fact, in the November box, we had an item that was not in there because they didn't have it yet, but they didn't want to prevent us from getting the box any longer. And I don't know if that item's been sent out yet. So anyway, thank you guys all for watching. I appreciate all the views and the comments. I enjoy having little conversations with you guys. And I hope you have a lovely day.